Boy, just be yourself. If people don't like it if you're being yourself, fuck them. Let me tell you.
Wouldn't you love to see one of these NFL owners, when somebody disrespects our flag, to say, get that son of a bitch off the field right now?
You get raw and ready at John Henry Drums.
Never to participate in the tradition of your enemies. Never, ever do you ever participate in the traditions of your enemies.
Death. Dylann Roof has been sentenced to death in Charleston, South Carolina. The man behind the killing of 9 churchgoers at a predominantly black church in Charleston, South Carolina, and represented himself, acted as his own lawyer without calling any witnesses in his own defense. The only issue here was whether he'd be facing life imprisonment or death. It is death. Jonathan Seri is on scene and can tell us more. Jonathan.
Neil, Dylann Roof looked down with his hands folded as the jury read its verdict. They agreed to all of the prosecution's allegations against him, that he willfully committed these murders, that he hated African Americans, that this was indeed a hate crime, and then they handed down their decision that Dylann Roof indeed should be sentenced to death. The jury had to come up with a unanimous verdict on the sentence in order for him to be sentenced to execution. Otherwise, the default sentence would have been life in prison without the possibility of release. Earlier today, Dylann Roof, acting as his own attorney, delivered his own closing argument. His closing argument lasted for only 5 minutes. He quietly asked the jury to give him a life sentence, and then rhetorically asked the jury, quote, "Wouldn't it be fair to say that the prosecution hates me because they're trying to give me the death penalty? Anyone who hates anything in their mind has a good reason for it, and sometimes that's because they've been misled, and sometimes it isn't. But I would say that in this case, the prosecution, along with anyone else who hates me, are the ones who have been misled." In his brief closing argument, Dylann Roof argued that he was not filled with hate, as the prosecution had alleged, but the lead prosecutor in this case, delivering a closing argument that lasted a little bit longer than 2 hours, argued that Roof remained unrepentant and reminded jurors that as recently as this very trial, he had attended some of the hearings, walking into the courtroom wearing shoes with handwritten racist symbols on them. Obviously, the jurors were persuaded by the prosecution's case and their closing argument, agreeing that Dylann Roof should pay the ultimate penalty for killing 9 members of Emmanuel AME Church back in 2015.